Alright guys, so today we're talking about another Yu-Gi-Oh! Penny Stock Market Watch. So the best-selling Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards under $5 or more. Let's just slide right into it. Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit has taken the first spot, the top spot for the Dual Devastator. Been on this card for weeks. The ship, for like people who are like the question of FOMO, because that always comes up, right? Whenever you're dealing with cards under $5 or more, every single card, oh, look at lower prices, fine. Every single card, you're going to have that. Could it go over $5 still? I don't really think so with this card. It's been sitting here for a while. I think that this was kind of the opportunity to get in, and now might be a good time to just sit and wait. But like I've mentioned multiple times, this is the only version of that art of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. And that's the kind of the case for a lot of Dual Devastator cards. Continuing on, Mikalis, I don't know, Poly, Lava Golem, Golden Lord, DDD card. Not anything too crazy here. Another Dual Devastator card. This one's Ghost Bell. Ghost Bell is a very, very strong card. And what's interesting about Ghost Bell is that Ghost Bell counters the Scythe Lock. So, my opponent does this crazy board. They set up 2 or 3 different negates. They have Dagda for Scythe, and standby phase of my turn or draw phase of my turn if they're able to. Some decks are able to do that. Some decks are able to pop the Scythe. I know like the Super Quant deck that I've been playing with on Master Duel, I'm able to pop the Scythe during my opponent's standby phase. Some people just wait for you to do something like the Break Sword, pop your card, pop the Scythe. Scythe has to go to the graveyard to activate its effects. You just chain Ghost Bell, and Ghost Bell does say, when a card or effect that activates one of these effects, you discard this card to get the activation. Special summon a monster from the graveyard. So it can't do that. And that could be huge, right? That could be honestly the difference between winning or losing the duel. So that's a big reason why this card is here. Sales Ban is back. Dual Devastator version of Super Poly. Dual Devastator version of Effect Veiler. Dual Devastator version of Called by the Grave. Piri Reese map. I actually found an extra copy of this. It's just like a minor tangent for myself. And I sold it within not even 2 hours. So if you have these lying around, or if you're able to pull these, it is only $2, but it is. And I hate using this word, but okay, maybe not $2 exactly, but it is actually it is. It's a guaranteed $2. Whatever the lowest price is. Okay, let me just say this way. Whatever price you put this card at, if it's the lowest price on the market or around there, it's gonna sell. It's gonna be gone. And it's just one of those cards. It's got a nice effect, and people can abuse it, and that's why it's such a popular card. Fluenderies, we talked about this deck before. Another Tiamat card. That's the second one. We have this one, and we have this one up here. Oh, this isn't Tiamat card. It just looks like it. Okay. It's interesting. Is those nostalgia cards. I've talked about it a lot here. I'm so curious about this card. I've talked about this card before. Oh, it is starting to already creep up in price. Why does it keep doing that then? This is the second week in a row. It says it's as low as 20 cents. And then I go to it. Because last week, if you watched last week's video, I did the exact same thing. And it said it was as low as 15 cents. And I was like, that's crazy. It's gone down. And then I go to it, and there's none of them for 15 cents. And we look at it right now. The lowest price plus shipping is 74 cents. It will be $1 soon. That is just a fact. It's not fear of missing out. I am aware. We just saw it. 27 copies at 75 cents. 18 copies at 74 cents at the start. 147 copies at 84 cents. But and once those go, I'm sure more will fill in, and then some dude will drop like 500 at 85 cents, and so, but it will be $1 soon. I think once it's $1, that's probably as high as it's going to get, and it's going to sit there for a while. But this is a fantastic card, and if you don't already have this version of this card, I strongly recommend getting it, because soon the Grand Creators are not going to be on the shelves anymore. And then this has something to do with, shout out to the DB Grinder. I heard he got a top with Bird Up, but he really likes Bird Up, and he's definitely played it a lot. Is this even still a under $5 card? It is for a little bit. And Lyricist, okay. So Lyricist in general obviously took a huge hit because of the ban list, unfortunately. But it is still a good deck. Is it a great deck? Probably not. Is it the best version of Tri-Brigade? That's the biggest question. So both Lyricist and Zodiac give you access to Zeus, right? So that's almost a wash. I would say Lyricist, because of its spam potential, because of its consistency, because there's a lot of weird cards that work really well with it. Like DD Crow has weird synergy. Where Art Thou has weird synergy. Like there's a lot of like random synergy, and there's even more too, right? And even if just a card like this, take one Lyricist monster from your deck, either add it to your hand, send it to the graveyard, then you can special summon one from your hand. That's kind of how the whole archetype works. The whole archetype is just searching and summoning and searching and summoning, searching and summoning, and it can get you there. If you don't open your fractals, if you don't open your Karaz, you don't open your kits, the Lyricist engine can get you there. I do think that there's a lot of different things you can do with Tri-Brigade. I still think Lyricist is the best route to go in particular, right? Um, is it great? Not, it's not amazing by any stretch of the imagination, um, but it is still a solid archetype, the Bird Up engine, right? And so I've talked about this a lot, and the question now is, like I was just talking about, is this FOMO? Because in February this was $50. If I go here, I could get it for $63. Jeez. I don't know if we go back a year ago. We're looking at $47 in last October. I mean, this is as far as it's gonna go. This says this was a 40 like 39.99 type thing for a while when it was on the shelves. So the question is now that I think I've talked about this. I think this is probably going to be like the 6th or 7th time I've talked about this. And the reason why I've kind of slowed down talking about this for obvious reasons is that everything in the set is starting to become more valued, right? So I talked about it before. It's been going up in value. Everybody's talking about it. You know, there's different articles all over the place. And a lot of these cards are in the best selling cards under $5. Like these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards all are. And I wouldn't be surprised if we just go to the next page. If we just go to the next page, I wouldn't be surprised if we continue to see more dual Devastator cards. Like, oh, it kind of takes a second, actually. Oh, it's a bit of a drop off. Okay, so DD Crow's right there, right? So it does actually take a little bit of a drop off after those first few cards. Because now I'm already on page 3. There's the Kaiju, Gamma Seal, and that actually might be it for this page too. So it's really those first few cards there. And so that's really what I wanted to talk about. It's not, because that's the thing. When it comes to like the regular Yu-Gi-Oh Market Watch, it could be fairly obvious when you've missed out, right? The card was $2 yesterday. A bunch of support came out for that specific card, and now it's $10. You clearly missed the boat. The train has left the station. I'm sorry. Right? It was like Ryza, the Mega Monarch. And we talked about that card a little bit last week. We talked about Floanderies last week. That card was like a $10, $15 card before Floanderies was announced. And then it was like a $35 card right before the release of Floanderies. The release of Floanderies made it a $70 card. That's missing out. But when it comes to penny stock, and that's really all I'm talking about here. I'm not going to talk about the Ash Blossom. I'm not going to talk about the set itself. Everything else in this set is a penny stock. So the question is, now that I'm posing, and I'm going to answer this question, but I'd love for you guys to get involved in the comments as well. Is Dual Devastator still a solid investment? A lot of times you see, something that's worth the baseline, right? And people go, watch out for that thing. It might go up in value. Over time, it does go up in value. And people are like, okay, it's going up in value. Now is your chance to get into it, right? Get onto it. And then it goes up in value even more, right? it's basically, the basic question is, how high is the train? How high is the roller coaster going to go before it drops, right? And so, to answer that question, you have to ask yourself, what would make these cards randomly drop in value, right? And I think that's why we're seeing the most popular sold cards from here, a good amount of them. The best-selling cards here, actually, literally the top 3 best-selling cards are these 3 cards, and they're all alternate arts, right? And so that's why I was always so big on that Ghost Ogre. And I know I said we were going to talk about the Ash Blossom, but I'm trying to see. This is the only version of Ash Blossom that looks like that. And I don't recall Ghost Bell. Let me take a look. I know we just looked at Ghost Bell in a second. Yeah, this is the only version of Ghost Bell that looks like that. And I don't know if they're going to hit $10, $20, $30. Like, we look at, because if you look at the best-selling versions of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, $300 for the alties, right? So that's regardless of, well, that card, there's no way the Dual Devastator version could ever get you $300. The fact still remains that somebody, I'm just going to leave these open before I close them and open them, close them, open them. The fact still remains, if we go to this version of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, the fact still remains that on 4 days ago, March 23rd, someone bought this card for $300. Does the exact same thing, right? So the ceiling for Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit is $300. If you want to see the ceiling is $90, I guess that's fine too. But you shouldn't just be so quick to assume that this card could never get to that spot, right? But what is the ceiling for Dual Devastator version of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit? I don't actually think we've seen it. I don't think we've seen the ceiling for Ghost Bell. Ghost Bell, Flames of Destruction version, $30, $35. We'll just take a look at this real quick. This was sold yesterday for $54. I don't think we've seen the peak of Ghost Bell either. So I think these 3 cards, even though this isn't a penny stock, these 2 cards, as far as the penny stocks are concerned, I don't think they're done. I think that, I don't think the gains are going to be what they could have been, right? But I think you could still make a like, I don't see why those cards could go down in price. Now we look at a card like Super Polymerization. I would hesitate with this card because, like I said previously, the question you have to ask yourself when a Yu-Gi-Oh card is going up in value and is consistently gaining value week in and week out. Super Polymerization, we kind of just randomly shot up. But if you look at the graph, like, right, if we just made a line about how the graph has looked over the last 3 months, or even just not really the last month, that wasn't a good example, but the last 3 months. It started at $3. A month later, it was $3.20. It went back down to under $3, and then it started to creep back up, got to about $3.30, fixed itself a little bit, got to $3, got back to $3.30, started going back and forth for a bit, and now is a $4 card. So overall, it's been trending upward. It does look like it's hit a ceiling, right? This is the scariest looking thing. Like, no thing you should ever want to see is gonna look like that. But the thing is, though, regardless of, like, if the market would correct itself and things like that, like, the main thing you want to think of, what could actually cause this card to lose value? Because a reprinting version of Super Polymerization, I don't really think it'll do that. Like, the Dual Devastator version, I mean, there's a couple of commons that are cheaper. This rare version is cheaper, and I view rares the same as commons. They're just disgusting. But the ultra rare version, like, as far as, like, cool looking versions, like supers, secrets, ultras, this is on the more expensive side. We look at the maximum gold version. This one's gone way down. I'm not even really quite sure what caused that. But the biggest reason why I'm staying away from this card, though, is the ban list. I'm not sure. I don't think so. I don't think it get hit by the ban list, but it's definitely a card powerful enough to get hit by the ban list. And it's just the stronger dark decks are in the format, the more you could just side in Super Polymerization to summon the Starving Venom Dragon. or whatever it is. Not the Starving Venom Dragon, but there's a, you know what I mean, the Predaplant monster that gets summoned off of that, or whatever monster gets summoned off of the. There's like 2 dark monsters. You know what I'm talking about. The point isn't what the card's name is. The point is that Super Polymerization is a really good card, and I could see it get hit by the ban list. Now, we look at a card like Effect Failure. I don't really know. I guess all versions of Effect Failure are up, but there are so many versions of this card. That being said, I think all versions across the board of Effect Failure are solid investments right now. Because Effect Failure is a card that sometimes it's like $1, sometimes it's like $1.50, sometimes it's even like 50 cents. And sometimes all versions, I mean, we just looked at it, all versions, I don't know why I closed out of it, all versions of Effect Failure are like at least $2. And there's like common printings of this card. Like there's like super cheap printings of this card. And it's like $2.85, $5, $2.90, $2.95, $2.87, $2.65, $3. This is what this card has always done in its entire existence. It's not going to get banned. It's been out for who knows how long. I think like over half a decade. It's not going to get banned. It's probably not going to get a reprint. It just got a reprint in the structure deck. And that structure deck's a little older now at this point. But I think that is the most recent. That is the most recent version to come out too, the structure deck version. Like this structure deck version taking off should be proof that this is a solid investment. Like any of these versions, maybe not this one, but even this one, to be honest, even the most expensive version of Effect Failure, are solid investments. Because at the very least, it's not going to get banned, and it probably won't get a reprint anytime soon, so it's going to maintain its value. That's the main thing we're talking about right here as far as Dual Devastator is concerned. Now, I'm going to stop at Gamma Seal. Even though Solemn Strike for $1 is pretty good, it's because of that Grand Creator's Rare version, though. But all versions of Solemn Strike might be a solid investment. Just because I don't see there being another reprint anytime soon. And if this card was going to get banned, it would have happened already. I don't think this card's anywhere near the ban or limited list. This card might be. This card has consistently been a crazy side deck card. I don't really want to talk about Gamma Seal too much. Cosmic Cyclone's interesting. Only because it's just always been good. Out of stock. Makes sense. It's just always been good. And, like, the better Eldritch is, the better investment Cosmic Cyclone is. Because, obviously, this card hard counters Eldritch. And I don't really see this card in a lot of main decks or side decks. I'm not the biggest fan of this card, even though I think life points don't matter that much. I do think they matter enough. That's why if you look, a lot of my deck profiles have never had Cosmic Cyclone in there, because for me it doesn't do enough. I'd rather run Twin Twisters, right, in decks I can discard. And honestly, I've been running Mystical Space Typhoon instead of Cosmic Cyclone because, like I said, sometimes life points matter. Like I've won duels with 100 life points or less than 1,000. If you've won a duel with less than 1,000 life points, I can't. If you've won a duel with 1,000 life points, I think you should be able to agree with the fact that, like, Cosmic Cyclone's not that good of a card. Is it a good investment, though? We do see time and time, like, people just... There might even be people on this video that disagree with me on Cosmic Cyclone. So, as far as whether or not it's a good investment, I think it is. But just be careful, because if Red Reboot comes back, if Harpy's Feather goes to 3, Cosmic Cyclone's value is going to go down. And that's what I'm saying. Like, what could cause this card's value to go down? I don't think a reprint would. I think the reprint would just, like every other version of Cosmic Cyclone, go right back up to like $2, $3, or even $5, right? Unless it's like the Grand Creator Solemn Strike version. And in that case, that would make the price go down a little bit, like what we saw here, but I still don't think a lot. DD Crow has always been really good. It's one of the oldest hand traps in the game. I don't think you'd regret having, like, investing in DD Crows. Now, we take a look. That is the cheapest version of DD Crow. And that's the biggest thing. Like, I'm going to take a look at Ash Blossom real quick. The Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit and the Effect Veiler and Super Polymerization and the Cosmic Cyclone, and maybe the Ash Blossom. We'll see real quick. Not the Ash Blossom. But kind of, though. Actually, kind of the Ash Blossom. And Joyous Springs. Let's see. This one. Okay, so this is the cheapest version. But that's kind of the same with Effect Veiler. Like, all of these cards are the cheapest versions of these cards, too. So that's something to see. Like there is room for it to keep going up because even though these cards have gone up in value over the last 3 months, they're still the cheapest ones available. They're still the cheapest ones on the market. Now you can't really say that about Solemn Strike, but it's getting there. The Grand Creator's Rare is getting really close to there, right? And so that brings me to the final card I want to talk about. This card. I think this card is the dark horse of this set. Crossout Designator was not huge. Look at this, down right now. Like everything else in Dual Devastator, every other graph we looked at in Dual Devastator, the card that was going up recently. This card's going down, right? And like I said, Crossout Designator made this card's value go down for sure. But I think what also Crossout Designator showed is that, like, there's just so many hand traps in the game that a anti-hand trap card isn't that good. And yes, the common version is technically a little bit cheaper. I think. Yeah. The common version is technically cheaper. But I look at this card, Called by the Grave. If it goes to 2, all of these would be $5. Just 2. If it goes to 3, who knows? That's why I think this might be the best investment out of Dual Devastator. That's why I called it the dark horse. I personally still think the best investments are these two because they are the alternate printing. But let me know what you guys think. We spent a little bit more time on Dual Devastator. I know I've talked about Dual Devastator a lot, but the reason for that is because watching this box grow has actually been very quite interesting because it was like a few months ago. This was like a $50 box and everything was super duper cheap. And I said, you probably should invest in this because everything's going to start going up. And I had this long talk about how, that was the only printing of Ghost Ogre. And it's just been creeping up to where now the discussion isn't so slam dunk that it's a good investment. But I still think, even after all of these gains, it is a good investment. But there are some cards that I'm not super keen on. But let me know what you guys think in those comments down below. Make sure you guys click that like button to show your support for the channel. Subscribe for even more content. But most importantly of all, have a good day.